And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at Riverboat by Michael Kiesling. I was talking to someone today saying how Eric Kiesling used to be like, oh, he's the guy who works with Wolfgang Kramer. Well, no longer. I mean, not only does he have the very popular Azul out, he has many other games, and one of them this year is Riverboat. Now, Riverboat is a game about in the Midwest, 19th century on the Mississippi River. You're farming and trying to get goods to ship on the riverboat and send people to whatever. It's a way to get points. Let's take a look at how this game plays, and we'll judge it on that. As with many Euro games, what you're trying to do here is get the most points. You're going to get 7 points if you cover up a complete field in your area. And by the way, each person has different color fields on their boards. You're going to get points for coins. Coins are more useful during the game, but they're a point at the end of the game. You'll get points for different fields that you have on the board that show points on them. You'll get points if you have accomplished specific victory point cards. And then whoever has the most people in New Orleans is going to get points at the end of the game. So how do you go about doing it? Well, in each round of the game, whoever's the first player is going to take these 5 tiles and they're going to choose one and then pass it to the next player and going around. And it's possible that a player will have more than one of these. The phases are then done in order. You play the card, everyone does the phase, but the person who plays the card will get an extra bonus. For example, in phase 1, the person will take one of these. You're going to do this 4 times over the course of the game and can place this anywhere on their board. Then they're going to take this deck of cards and shuffle it and draw a card and announce the type that's in the background. By the way, the types have little icons on them to make it easy. So I can say diamond, and everyone's going to take one of their workers and place it on a diamond. And they might draw the next one, star, and everyone will take one and put it on star. And you're trying to hopefully get your people next to each other. Occasionally you'll draw one that says wild, and then you can place one anywhere you want. During this phase, if anyone doesn't like the terrain type that is drawn and they want to put it somewhere else, they can pay one of their coins to place their worker on something different than what was said. So that's what happens in the first round. In the second round, players are going to take turns drafting these over here. And the person, obviously, who took this is going to get to go first, which is a big deal. When you take these, there's singles, doubles, and triples. You can take them and replace workers as long as you have 1, 2, or 3 next to each other. So I can do this and replace these guys. You can also pay a coin during this phase to take a single or a double that's not on the board. You can go through the piles and say, oh, I really wanted a radish, and someone else took the last radish, I want one. You can go through and get one. So you're going to be replacing these or putting these underneath the workers that are out here that are on these spots. Then, in phase 3, players are going to be getting the riverboats. This is the whole point and the name of the game. There are different riverboats up here from 1 to 7. To get a riverboat of a specific type, so let's say I want a 3 riverboat here, I'm going to have to pay 3 of the same type of good. So if I have 3 different people on corn, so let's say these 3 were together, and I have them here and I put them on top of corn, I can take these 3 workers back. That's 3 corn. Take this riverboat, put it in the first empty slot. Now when you take a riverboat, it's going to give you some benefits. This one here gives me 3 victory points and lets me move my yellow dude here 1 space, a harbor master. Now you want to move the harbor master because at the end of the game, he's going to score points for every riverboat that you pass. So you can get a lot of points if you move your harbor master down farther. But only the person who moves their harbor master the farthest is going to get those full points. Everyone else is only going to get half points for each one that they pass. And when you take these harbor masters, sometimes they're going to give you special things that you can put. Like you can put out a well, and a well can be scored over the course of the game. Or you can put out a little shack here, a little barn that can be on the board. Or you can take, sometimes they'll give you extra surveyors. Each of the riverboats is going to give you different benefits as you take them. Some give points, some give coins, etc., etc. In round 4, each player starting with the person who took it, is going to take one of these cards here. This is a card that they possibly can score over the game, and they're also going to get a benefit. Like this one lets me move my Harbor Master 2 spaces. This gives me another Surveyor. And then in round 5, players are going to be placing their Surveyors out. Now, you're going to get some Surveyors, and you're going to be placing them on the board. Now, Surveyors are going to score things for you. And you only have so many Surveyors. You can place at most 2 each round, except the final round you can place 3. And when you place a Surveyor, you are basically scoring that Surveyor at that point in time. So if I have this card, for example, this gives me 1 point for every hex that I have that's around the outside of the board. And the most points you get is 15. So if I have 10 hexes, I might do it. But I might say, I'll wait till a future turn. But remember, I can only place 2 of these per turn, so I might want to do it earlier. Or I could place it on a well and score a point for all the stuff next to it, or on a house. And those are going to give me points the house is the thing where you get 1 for everything that's next to it. The well will give you 1 for each thing that's in the group. They're going to score points for you based on when you put the Surveyor down on them. And then at the end of the round, you replace everything. All these are going to be filled up. At certain points, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to let you put different of your workers here in New Orleans. And when you put workers in New Orleans, remember at the end of the game, the most there is going to get points, 20 points for having the most. So that can be a lot of point swings. And you're slowly going to be building up your area. You're going to be getting different cards. And as I mentioned, the coins are often used. I didn't mention all the ways to use coins, but coins can let you buy a riverboat even when the one you wanted has been taken. Go anywhere you want here. Take a card from the pile rather than one of the victory point cards that's up there. And again, there's a lot of different cards that will score you points. Like this one here gives you 5 points. Move your Harbor Master 2 spaces. This gives you 2 points times however many coins you have, with a maximum of 14. This gives you 3 points for every well and 3 points for every barn. And so there's just a lot of different combinations of cards and things that you can get. 1 point for all your pumpkins. So players are going to do that. After 4 rounds of doing this whole thing, whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. The game, the cards, everything is pretty good. At first we had some problem with these because these aren't easy colors to tell apart, but then we just started using the symbols that were in the side. That was pretty easy. There was one rule in the rule book which I thought was fairly confusing. When you're taking these guys off of areas, the fields, to get a riverboat, the rule illustration makes it look like they all need to come from the same area, but I've clarified that it's not. They can come from different areas, which makes placement not as important. The fact that the riverboats slide in the top here on this, it's really nice. I like how that looks, moving the guy around. The whole thing has a nice appeal to it, the board and everything. You'll probably have to look up symbology, and it does explain what all the riverboats do in case you forget, and or what all the different cards do and how they score points. But they're pretty easy and you'll get it quickly enough. I mean, it's not like a stunning game, but the game looks well enough on the table. There's a lot of interesting concepts in Riverboat. A lot of different mechanisms that come together. I like the fact that you can pick which round you want the special ability on. I want to be the first one to pick from the lands and mill. I want the ability to do this in this round. I like that concept. You want to be the first to play in which round. That's the one you draft. That's neat. I also like the coins. I like how the coins are worth a point at the end of the game, which is not that big of a deal because during the game they can be really handy, using a coin to do something, break a rule in some manner or fashion. And using those, and you don't want to run out of them. So that's kind of cool. I like the bingo aspect of the land. Someone's calling out a land. Okay, it's on a heart. You mark, and you're like, okay, I put a guy here. All right, I put the guy here, and hopefully I can connect here. Then when I connect, I can put down this. And you're trying to cover up a whole color, which is not that easy, but it's possible to do. And also then you have your workers themselves as you're putting them out. If you have too many out on the board, you're placing 8 of them each round, but you might not have 8 to place, which can be a bummer because you have some on the board. So you need to get those guys off on boats, but you might want to keep them on the board for a longer period of time so you can get those bigger river boats, which can be worth a lot of points. And then getting extra ones or sending them off to New Orleans. You send them off there, and that's great because they'll be worth points at the end of the game, which could be 20 points if you have the most, but then you're not using them. And then the surveyors themselves. When do you use them? You can only use 2 per turn. So you're looking at this card going, do I score it now? Do I score it next turn? It's going to get me more points next turn. But I might have 3 cards to score next turn, and I'll be able to score 2 of them. Or I have this well or this barn, and you're trying to figure out the best time to use them. Now, all this is actually lots of good decisions. I mean, there's a lot of decisions in this game, but it's not overwhelmingly complex. There's a lot of these games where they'll say, oh, over the game you make 32 choices. But here you don't. Every round, you're going to make 8 choices when those different color lands where you're going to put them. And then you're making choices as you draft them that cover up the spots and put the lands on your areas. And then you're making choices as which riverboats you're getting. And then you're making choices as whether to use your surveyors or not. So all this compounds upon itself. And when you take those riverboats, or you can take things that give you points now, you're going to go for that majority bonus at the end of the game. Are you going to try to move your harbor master up? Because moving your harbor master up can be game-swingingly good. But at the same time, if that's all you concentrate on, you might not get a lot of points during the game. So this game isn't amazing, right? It's hard to pinpoint something in this game and say, I've never seen that before. But it's a nice thing of mechanisms that I don't think I've seen before. I think the game's a little disingenuous to call it Riverboat because the riverboats could have been spaceships for all I care. They're just things, they're like a reward for resources. It doesn't really, it's more, the game is about your land and stuff. It's about the farm, but the farm is probably not as exciting of a title. But that being said, it's a solid game. It says 90 minutes on here. I think that's slightly higher, actually. It might be a little bit faster than that, especially when players know what they're doing. There's interaction of when you're going to take the tiles. You took that riverboat before I wanted to. When am I going to use the coin? When am I going to score something? Do I have the area majority in New Orleans? There's a lot of good choices. This is one I think that's getting passed by many people, but it's certainly one I would definitely check out. Mr. Kiesling certainly has proven himself a very good designer, and this game is yet more proof of that. Riverboat. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.